In a modern world of live service games and digital downloads, they say nothing truly lasts forever. Indeed, even many physical games today require extra installs or have some ridiculous always online requirement. Meaning, once a company decides to take their services offline, you may lose access to your games or certain features indefinitely. Now, Nintendo is typically pretty good in this regard, but they are also no stranger to locking certain features behind timed events or online access, with Animal Crossing being one of their series that has a slew of lost content due to this. From inaccessible features to removed characters to unobtainable items, let's take a look at all of the content in the series that has been lost to time due to various shutdowns. Starting with the GameCube original, you might think that these first generation games wouldn't have any inaccessible content at all. After all, these games are the only ones in the series that do not connect to the internet. This is true, but there are a few items and features that were accessible in the past, but are either no longer available or made extremely difficult to access. I've mentioned before that there was a transfer feature available in Japan for owners of the original Japanese N64 game and the GameCube's updated Plus version. Since these games were released within literal months of each other, Nintendo offered a transfer service to transfer your progress from the N64 to the GameCube game. And as an added bonus, Nintendo gave each player a copy of the NES game Ice Climber in their home for using the service. This ended up being the only way to legitimately obtain this item in Dobutsu no Mori Plus, and since this service was discontinued sometime in 2005, legitimate access to this item has been lost for years now. Speaking of Ice Climber, fans of this channel are likely familiar with the e-reader and its various Animal Crossing e-cards. First integrated in the North American version of the game, scanning various Animal Crossing e-reader cards on a connected Game Boy Advance can unlock various unique items, letters, and clothing designs. In other words, you would have to own a Game Boy Advance, a link cable, an e-reader, and the card just to get one item. Given how all of these are now out of production, obtaining these items legitimately is becoming more and more infeasible for most people. Further, in all versions of the GameCube Animal Crossing, Nintendo actually packaged in a special memory card when purchasing the game brand new. This memory card included a special welcome message from Nintendo and a grab bag containing KK Love Song and 2 random NES games. When loading up Animal Crossing on this memory card for the first time, this letter from Nintendo would be sent to your mailbox. After receiving it, the special data on the card is effectively removed and nobody else can receive this letter from that memory card ever again. This makes this exact letter from Nintendo one of the more rare items in any Animal Crossing title, as you can theoretically only obtain it from a brand new copy of the game that has never used the memory card before. Given that this is the first letter you receive in this game, a lot of players might have thrown out this letter when freeing up their letter space, without realizing you can actually save letters in the post office. So, if you actually bought the game brand new and saved this letter in your post office storage, consider yourself lucky as you now own one of the rarest items in the series. Next, let's move away from the GameCube version, and I thought I'd switch things up and move all the way to New Horizons. So, hey, man, we don't have time to be cooking. Instead of going through the hassle of all that meal prep, check out this meal box from today's sponsor, Factor. Listen, I know you want to eat more delicious meals, but we just don't have the time or energy to meal prep, stock ingredients, or cook every day. A lot of people share this mindset, which often just leads to people ordering takeout or wasting money away on fast food. Well, with Factor, you get freshly made and dietitian-approved meals delivered right to your door that are ready to eat in just 2 minutes. You even have over 35 delicious meals to choose from, with options like Protein Plus to Calorie Smart, and even vegan and vegetarian selections. Personally, I tried Factor myself, and I promise you it's my honest opinion when I say that these meals are actually quite tasty. I was especially fond of these cold-pressed fruit juices that came included in my box. Trust me, with Factor, I can definitely see myself ordering out less, saving money on groceries, and saving time on meal prep and cleanup. If you want to try Factor for yourself, head to factor75.com or click the link below and use code HUNTER50 to get 50% off your first Factor box and 20% off your next month of orders. That's code HUNTER50 at factor75.com to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next month of orders. Thanks again to Factor for sponsoring and allowing me to share this offer with you all. Back on topic, being the most recently released title in the series, New Horizons doesn't really have any innate content that has been lost to time or discontinued in any way yet. It did, however, have a fun external feature that only lasted about 9 months in 2021. The Island Tour Creator was a feature introduced in the 1.9.0 update and was essentially a website that you could visit on a mobile device to create a personalized overview trailer for your island. On this site, you could send over screenshots and videos taken from your Switch and create customized posters and actual narrated trailers for your own island.
Thank you for your interest in our island. Please join us for a virtual tour of all it has to offer.
This was a pretty cool way to give a sneak peek of your island to other players, and it even displayed your island's dream address at the very end. This feature was unfortunately discontinued in December 2021, and trying to visit the website now will just redirect you to New Horizons' main page. Moving on, let's talk about Wild World and City Folk, which arguably have the most lost content in the series. Losing access to the Nintendo Wi-Fi connection servers in 2014 ultimately means Wild World and City Folk can no longer connect online. This of course makes online multiplayer impossible in any official capacity for both games. Now, online multiplayer isn't a huge feature in any Animal Crossing game, but losing access to online connectivity actually has some further consequences in both of these games. First, in Wild World, to unlock the final store upgrade Nookingtons, the original game required a player from another town to visit and buy or sell at least one item before the upgrade was triggered. As you can imagine, removing online multiplayer makes this process a bit more cumbersome, albeit not impossible. Wild World thankfully has local connection play on top of online play, so as long as you have an in-person friend with a copy of Wild World, or 2 DS systems and 2 copies of the game, you can still technically have another player visit and unlock Nookingtons officially. Somewhat surprising to me, Nintendo was actually cognizant of this restriction and removed the multiplayer requirement to unlock Nookingtons in the Wii U Virtual Console re-release of Wild World. City Folk of course released on a home console, meaning it did not support any sort of local connection play, which makes City Folk the only mainline Animal Crossing title where official multiplayer is no longer possible. However, shutdown of the Nintendo Wi-Fi connection did not just affect multiplayer. In both Wild World and City Folk, Nintendo utilized the Wi-Fi connection servers to distribute special DLC items to players across various events. In Wild World, a lot of these distributed items were obtainable elsewhere in the game, making them not entirely unique. But there were some distributed items that were completely unique to Nintendo's Wi-Fi connection distributions or through special local events. Those in North America may be familiar with GameStop's shiny Pokemon distributions, and Wild World essentially hosted similar events at select Toys R Us stores in 2006 and later at the Nintendo store in New York. Using this special cartridge, a Nintendo DS system could act as a distributor to wirelessly send data to other local DS systems. This cartridge, known as the Relay version, is actually the only way to obtain monkey villagers in Wild World. That is to say, all 6 monkeys present in Wild World can only officially be unlocked through this local distribution cartridge. Booting the not-for-resale Relay version works on any standard DS and brings up this menu where you can select a specific monkey to distribute through local communication. Of course, since the event periods for these villagers have long passed, obtaining monkey villagers in Wild World is theoretically no longer possible without either hacking or purchasing one of these not-for-resale carts yourself. On the topic of unobtainable DLC items, Nintendo actually did the same thing for City Folk and distributed items from 2008 to 2012 using a service called WeConnect24. WeConnect24 was actually discontinued before the Wi-Fi connection servers, exactly 11 years before this video's posting date. With this discontinuation, all of City Folk's DLC items are no longer officially obtainable. Luckily, Nintendo learned their lesson from Wild World and only distributed a small amount of truly exclusive DLC items in City Folk, right? Oh. Indeed, a total of 87 completely exclusive items were released as DLC through WeConnect24. It's unfortunate that a lot of these items are some of the coolest in the game, like the Nintendo DSi bench, the GameCube dresser, and the Wii locker. Now, some of these items would make a return in future Animal Crossing titles, but as it stands, these items are no longer officially obtainable in City Folk. Further, connecting to WeConnect24 is actually a requirement for triggering Blanca's appearance in City Folk. And again, due to the shutdown of this service, Blanca is one of the most infamous cases of lost content in Animal Crossing, since she's basically completely removed from City Folk entirely unless you utilize third-party services. Finally, let's talk about New Leaf, which, as of this video's posting, just recently got its online connectivity shut down entirely. Like Wild World and City Folk, this of course impacts online multiplayer connectivity, but unlike those games, losing online actually hits a little harder, as I have fond memories of the online actually being fun with the Tortimer Island minigames. Of course, the discontinuation of the Nintendo network most significantly impacts the Dream Suite, where pretty much all features of that service are effectively no longer accessible. Further, New Leaf also contained a badge system which essentially served as an achievement marker for accomplishing various things in-game. Since the Dream Suite no longer functions, it is now impossible to get the Mr. or Mrs. Sandman achievement, which was previously unlocked by visiting 500 Dream Towns. Further, the badges for hosting or traveling to other players' towns are made significantly harder to unlock with the removal of online. In order to get these badges now, you have to use local wireless play, which is quite a pain even if you can just travel back and forth between the same town over and over. This also affects remodeling the train station as a public works project, since that feature is only unlocked when your town has received 100 visits from other players. Just like Wild World and City Folk, New Leaf also distributed online content by connecting to Spot Pass, which was a branch of the Nintendo network. So these items are effectively no longer obtainable, but New Leaf also had a few physical event distributions as well. In the United States, there are a few specific event distributions at Best Buy retailers that gave away some basic exclusive items. However, things get really interesting in Japan, where they got entirely new villagers and themed crossover items. By connecting to special Nintendo zones at certain 7-Eleven convenience stores in Japan, you could get the special villager Philly to arrive at the RV campsite in New Leaf Welcome Amiibo. This character actually first appeared in Happy Home Designer, but her references to 7-Eleven were removed in the North American releases. In Japan, she sports a 7-Eleven uniform, which is a real clothing item in this game that can be given to players when talking to her. Interestingly, Philly is also dressed in a similar fashion to the numbered superhero villagers, perhaps implying some connection there. Unfortunately, Philly could not be permanently moved into your town, but they still had some villager data attached to them, like how their birthday is assigned to July 11th. Or 7-Eleven. God damn it, Nintendo. The other Japanese exclusive villager that functions the same as Philly is Holden, which was the result of a collaboration between Animal Crossing and the Japanese stationery and glue company Fueki. Holden was based off Fueki's mascot, and could only be invited to the campsite when you connected online in Japan from February to May 2017. Despite not being released internationally, Holden still has an English localized name and catchphrase. In Japan, he's called Noribo, whereas the English name Holden is likely a pun on the words hold and golden, referencing how glue holds things together, and his golden appearance. Regardless, both Holden and Philly are no longer accessible in any form due to their distribution periods having passed, but I do think they are one of the more interesting cases of inaccessible content in this series. With that, I believe I've covered the majority of the lost content found in the mainline series of Animal Crossing titles. There are a few smaller instances of no longer accessible content, such as this silly little DSi calculator app and the Wii U Plaza app, which is kinda crazy. That was the only Animal Crossing related content released on the Wii U. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed today's video, and a special thank you to the Nookipedia staff for documenting and sharing a lot of these findings, especially AlexBot2004, who compiled a lot of the more obscure region-exclusive content. Further thank you goes to my Patreon and YouTube members for their financial support of this channel, with special shoutouts to Lunascape, Lorenzo, Cynthia, Mentis98, Silly Marina, Villager, Cass, Hornet, Terumi, Benny Diddy, Pidge01, Kai D, ComfyBoy404, Japan Eat, Tammy's Head, Comfy, Exploding Bears, Holly Molly, Sitz, Idrin, and Bobby Nard. And as always, thank you all for watching. Until next time.